It's official!
Welcome to this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. I am your host, Octavia Green. Wow, what can I say about this episode? This evening, guys, I am sitting down with a prominent partner of an N100 law firm to talk about the importance of having your sister tribe. My guest this week, LaKeisha Marsh, is an excellent example of Black girl magic. As you'll see throughout this conversation, she understands the importance of her sister tribe. And she will admit, and she has admitted, that she is nothing without the friends and even family who pour into her, support her, uplift her, motivate her, and push her to continue to reach the bounds that comes with being a partner and in management of a law firm. I'm extremely excited about this conversation because I think it's an important topic. Too often, there's not a lot of us, and sometimes there's only one of us. So what do we do when we don't have someone that looks like us in our particular workspace? We all know that it can be lonely. We all know that it can be challenging. But this is why it's so important to build up a network. Whether it's people within your firm or people outside of your firm that's going to motivate you, that's going to pour into you, that's going to push you, but also serve as a sponsor and a mentor to you. It's important to have our sister tribe. And because of that, I am so excited to bring this conversation to you guys. I think it's going to be a good one. I know it's going to be a good one. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. So welcome to another episode of Legally Unapologetic. Today's guest, LaKeisha Marsh, prominent partner at an N100 law firm. How you doing, LaKeisha?
I am good, and yourself?
I'm well. First off, let me start by saying thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the podcast. You and I have spoken at length about the vision for this podcast, things that I'm trying to present through my conversations through this platform, and I'm honored that you agreed to come on today and be a guest. So first off, let me say thank you for your time and your energy. It's greatly appreciated.
No, you're welcome, and thank you. I'm super excited about what you've taken on, and getting the message of those women like us in the law, getting our message and both our struggle and our successes out there. So I appreciate you for actually taking this initiative to make this happen. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. So, look, let's just get into it. I try to start conversations just with some background of how I know the individuals that I'm interviewing. So, you were part of my journey, especially when I was within the law firm. So you knew baby attorney Octavia, but it was one of those things that as soon as I got to the law firm, I realized, okay, who's the who and who do I need to know? And I was very intentional about reaching out to you. I think at the time it was you and others associate at the time.
I think maybe she had just transitioned to partner, if memory serves me
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I knew, just coming in, those two names were household names, and, it was really relayed to me. These are the two Black women attorneys that are, making a name for themselves within this space, and somebody or people that you actually need to know. So our relationship started probably day 3 of the firm. And, I remember, one of the things that I remembered early on about our relationship was I think I was having a moment, and I remember you were calling me about something, and maybe you heard it in my voice, and you were like, okay, let's take a pause. What's going on? And I was just, I was overwhelmed. But just having that outlet in that moment, right? It's like, okay, I can kind of step back, and talk to this person about what's going on. I'm new to the firm. I'm trying to, get my footing. I'm trying to figure it out. And somebody cared. So thank you for being that anchor in that space. Um, but that kind of is why I wanted to bring you on. I think that story really shows the importance of having a sister tribe, especially as you're trying to navigate this space. So before we get into that conversation, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know what you're doing, because you're doing some great, amazing things. I've been able to see it firsthand, and I'm just excited for them all to see who you are and get to know you during our time together. So the floor is
Sure.
yours.
So I am LaKeisha Marsh, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Uh, Undergrad at an HBCU, Clark Atlanta University. Always loved my CAU. Law school in Chicago, where I began my practice. And I laugh and joke because I say I began my practice there, because only in the sense as I lived there on the weekends while I actually practiced or worked in Indianapolis. So I actually came out of law school and I went straight into the NCAA. And the NCAA is located in Indianapolis. And so I am a city girl. So I literally drove out to Indianapolis every Monday morning and then drove back from Indianapolis every Friday afternoon. So for the years that I was actually at the NCAA, that was my journey. Every Monday morning and back every Friday afternoon. Indianapolis was great for those that actually were, I lived, born and raised in LA, fast-paced city, went to undergrad in Atlanta, another fast-paced city, was living in Chicago, did law school, got my first job in Chicago, fast-paced city. So Indianapolis was a little slower than what I was used to. But it was only really, 3 hours. The way I drove it really was 235, 245 away from Chicago. So I was blessed to be able to have a position where every morning on Monday I got up, I left the house about 4:30 because of the time difference. I was able to make it to work, walking in at about 8:30, 8:45. And then every Friday afternoon would leave Indy at about 3 and would make it back into Chicago at about 5 o'clock when everyone else was getting off of work. And so I did that. I can literally count on two hands how many times I've spent the weekend in Indianapolis. So needless to say, that took a toll on me. And while I enjoyed my time at the NCAA, there was no other experience like it. I actually missed being, as I would call it, or as I thought at the time, a lawyer, because I worked in compliance and governance. And so I wasn't reviewing contracts all the time, or those things that we think coming out of law school. You know what? You are a lawyer. If you're not in court, then you are transactional. So I left the NCAA and took a position that brought me back to Chicago, where I was able to build a legal department, and once again in-house. And so I was in-house at TCS Education System for years, built that legal department, hired my first team, watched my first team excel, and I knew when it was time for me to leave, when they could do my job. And so I decided if I did not leave the TCS, that I would actually be there for a while. And that's not always the best thing in that role, because there was no elevation for me past the point in which I was, and there really wasn't anything else that I wanted to do. So I decided to conquer my fear and do it afraid. And I had an outside counsel at the time from the past 2 years, and we litigated this class action that TCS had. And I traveled everywhere with him, and through all our travels, he kept saying, "You should come into private practice. You should come into private practice." And I was like, I have no desire to do that. I don't know what it means to be, to court. I'm so used to being courted. And I realized after, him pressing me and just being at a space to where I had to do some reflection and soul searching, I realized that the only reason why I kept saying no to it was because I was afraid. And one of my biggest things that I say all the time, family, friends, anyone, is that sometimes you just have to do it afraid. And I had to take my own advice. And so I took a position at the firm he was actually at the time, didn't interview with the firm. They just sent me an offer because I had said, give me an offer better than what I'm making now. And the rest was history. And I wasn't coming in as an associate. And so literally they sent me an offer letter. I took a few months off. And then I joined that firm and was there for like 5 months before I found the current firm where I'm at, and hence where we met. And there I had the opportunity to build a practice there. And that was another great move for me because once again, I had no business. And so I remember telling the office managing partner, now our CEO, that I have no business. I just have a network, but you have to make me an offer I can't refuse. And he did. He made me an offer I couldn't refuse, gave me the room to grow and to build this practice. And I just had to do it afraid. And that brings me here almost 8 years later. When my original plan in joining private practice was only 2 years, so I would have it, on my resume. I always said that I wanted it on my resume just so it wouldn't be something that prevented me from getting my dream job, meaning not having a private practice experience, whatever that dream job, was. I didn't want not having that experience to hinder me from getting that position. And almost 8 years later, and I bypassed plenty of opportunities to go back into in-house or make another move. I'm still here, and I tell people, I was just telling some girlfriends this past weekend, they're like, why are you still there? And I've been honest, and I was like, I still feel like there's still more work to do, or a little more work. God still has more work for me to do here. So
what I was going to say. Maybe you are in that dream job because I'm not going to just let you say, oh, I came in, I didn't have any business, but I was able to build a practice. I'm going to make you go through, tell us what this practice is, but also drop the titles. There's a lot of them, but drop the titles because this is important to see, right? When we are talking about uplifting and encouraging each other, this is what we need to hear. You're a prominent attorney, partner, leader within your firm. So I need you to share it with the listeners.
yes, I think it is important. And I also think it's important because my path was different than most paths, than your traditional legal path. Go to law school, go and you become an associate, make partner. I didn't do that. I went the in-house route first. Came back in. Really, when I tell you no business, like my LPQ, my lateral partner questionnaire, maybe I put 25,000. If I put that, so I was, I was going to under promise and over perform, and here I am. Yes, partner at a law firm, never being an associate. I've never been an associate at a law firm, so I'm a partner, made equity, so I'm an equity partner. I chair the firm's higher education and collegiate athletics practice, and then I am also the national practice group chair for the government affairs and public policy practice group of the firm. Sit on the board, and so literally, I am in leadership and leadership of the firm, and one of very few Black women that's actually holding positions of leadership at the firm, and just in the legal profession in general when you think about private practice.
Right. And that's kind of why I needed you to say it because, we need to hear it. We need to be inspired. Like you said, there's not a lot of us that sit and hold these positions. However, it's possible. And, when you think about changing the narrative of what a law firm looks like, right? You guys and people like yourself are actually changing that narrative. So thank you so much for, not only the amazing work that you do, but the great example that you're setting.
Thank you.
So as we talked about the transition, right? Tell us how having a sister tribe has helped you as you've transitioned and been able to accomplish the many things that you have.
I have always had, I guess, my own personal sister tribe. And in addition to that, I've always had what I called the LaKeisha Marsh Board of Trustees. And those people have changed over the course of my career, while my main component of my sister tribe since college has stayed the same. And these are women that encourage me. These are women that check me when I need to be checked, make sure, they call me to task. Those things that I don't want to talk about, they press the issue, both personally and professionally as well. They keep pressing that issue. But they're also the ones that when I need to cry, they're right there in my corner. When I need that support, when I need to be uplifted, when I'm not celebrating myself, they remind me that I need to do that, or they celebrate me. And so I think it's extremely important to have that both personally and professionally, because it is not easy, and the higher or the more successful you get, the harder it becomes. And that is just, for a Black woman, our reality. When you look at where we stand on the pole of, I guess the levels that you can excel, you have white men, you have you have white women, then you have Black men, and really, quite frankly, I believe that the Black woman is at the bottom. We're just there, and it's so hard for us to, one, get there, but that journey of getting there is not any easier or harder than that journey of staying there. And I feel like once you get there and continue to rise, it just gets a little harder, because now you were, before you were just, look at that, look at my person of color, she's doing so great, and they were cheering you on, but when you become a threat, that's a whole different ball game. Those relationships that you thought were that tight, and that sponsorship that you thought that was just there, it's no longer the same, because now it's him or her, it's you or me, and it's that type of thing, and it makes it a lot harder, because I think as Black women, we don't always approach things that way. We are loyal to a fault at times, and I think I have had some rude awakenings through my journey to where I'm at right now, and I still have them.
Right, but I think that goes back to the earlier point of sometimes, when you have that core set of people to keep you grounded, to remind you that, look, you're going to have the naysayers, right? We all know that, especially being Black people in this profession, because at the end of the day, they don't just see a professional that's able to do their job, that's bringing in hella business, that's, actually, making a name for themselves, but also putting the name of the firm out there, right? They see a Black woman first. And it's unfortunate because, why should I be judged by what I look like and not necessarily those accolades that obviously show that I belong here, that I'm able and capable of doing my job, that I'm able and capable of competing at the highest level. I mean, to your point, you're capable of actually rising to management position in an N100 law firm. Why is that not to be respected, right? So,
Yeah. No, you're so right. And when I think about my sister tribe, and if it wasn't for them, there were many times where I don't have it in me. I don't, and I don't think all the time. I think your sister tribe, what's so great about it is sometimes just them being them, not even talking about your issues, is exactly what you need. Or them actually giving you your flowers or celebrating you is exactly what you need. It's almost like it's that gas to fuel you to keep going. I can take on this next battle because at the end of the day, I have someone that's looking at me and giving me my flowers and saying, you know what? You're not dimming your light. They don't want me to dim my light. And when I dim my own light, they're like, nope, I'm going to shine it brighter than you could have done, because sometimes you just need that. And that's the truth. And vice versa. And you then turn around and you do the same thing. It's a cyclical relationship because we all need it. we definitely need it. And sometimes I may not always be up. That's why my sister tribe keeps, they push me up. I may be having down days. They don't let me stay down, and vice versa. They could be down, and it's my responsibility and my honor at times to uplift them, because at the end of the day, without them, I am not me, and vice versa.
That's a really important part because, my listeners, they know my journey. They know when I transitioned. And, I held it in. I will admit that now, months later. I didn't share that, openly, especially with people like yourself. And we were actually at a conference when, yes, guys, she followed me in a bathroom, cornered me, said, we need to talk. And I'm like, well, I just used the bathroom. Can I wash my hands? Like, it kind of caught me by surprise. But it was one of those things that in that moment, I didn't feel judged, because when I told you, look, LaKeisha, I'm tired. I'm just burnt out. I just need a moment. I just need to take a beat and really refocus my energies and try to figure out what I want to do outside of this space. You didn't say, okay, well, you're so close. Just keep going. Your response, which was very needed in that moment, was, I understand, you take your moment. When you talk about the importance of having people in your space that really understand, like, it makes a difference, especially when you're performing. When you are, waking up, it actually makes it's kind of crazy, but it's almost easier, right, to walk through that fire when you have people that's actually on your side. So, again, I thanked you then. I'll thank you now for that moment, because I don't think, at the time I relayed to you the importance of just thank you for understanding. Because it was something I was holding in, because I'm like, wait, people won't get this. Unless you're a Black woman or, somebody that goes through something that's similar, and they can kind of understand the reins and the stress, and sometimes, the obstacles that we have to face in order to just keep going. It's easier to understand and actually be accepting of it, but also supportive. So appreciate you for that. But I want to transition then, because, what people don't really know, especially in law firms, because there's not that many of us, sometimes it's really hard to find your sister tribe. And you were very instrumental within the firm of forming a sister group, right? S3. I'm going to let you introduce the group and let people know, what S3 stood for, but really why that was so important for you at the time, and why you really wanted to start the sisterhood group within a law firm.
So S3, which stood for the Sisterhood of Support and Success, and it was basically Black women that would come together once a month to actually celebrate our successes, but also show our support. Not affiliated with the firm, just something that we needed, that I felt we needed. And I started it because I remember actually joining the firm and just, reaching out to some associates just when I was thinking about this idea, like what do you need? And there was one particular associate that I had reached out to in one of our Texas offices, and I was like, just checking in, and I have this idea. I think I want to pull us together. But I'm not sure. Would this be something that you'd be interested in? We need this. And she said to me, and she's like, I honestly think that that's a great idea, and I wish I would have had this call with you a few weeks ago, because she was leaving. So she was like, if I would have known that I wasn't by myself out here, because she was at that time the only Black woman in the office, heck, possibly the only Black woman in any of our Texas offices at the time. Right. She was like, if I would have known that I had someone out there, that would have made a difference for me. And that conversation solidified my decision that I needed to push forward with that, because I didn't want anyone to feel like no matter what office you were, even if you were the only one in that office, that you were not alone. And you could have another group of women, Black women, that one, understood your struggle, and two, if you needed to just vent, they were there to listen, and they were there to show your support. If you had done something great and hadn't been celebrated, they were there to celebrate you. And we would start each meeting with, okay, let's talk about some of the successes. Share your stories. Whether it's, I just, knocked out this, motion that I know is a kick-ass motion, or whatever that might be. Or I just had my first deposition and I was so nervous and it was just a success. Or I've been asked to have my first depositions, or whatever that might be. That's your success. And every success is important, because the smaller they are, they just build to greater successes. And if you can celebrate the small ones, then you definitely can get your flowers and celebrate the big ones. And if no one else was going to do it, we were going to do it for each other. And sometimes that celebration is not, we're throwing you a party, we're writing an article about you. Sometimes it's, we're just letting you talk about it. Let me talk about how great I felt this was. I don't care what anybody else says, but I felt that this was great. So let me talk about it. And I found that just talking about it sometimes, and hearing other people say, congratulations, good job, way to go, whatever that might be, is sometimes an encouragement that you need to keep going, to do the next thing. And I just felt that was important, and not wanting anyone, and we hadn't met in person. This was always been, even at the time, it wasn't even virtual. It was just on the phone. It was a dial-in number that everybody knew that was there. And if you wanted to join, you could join. If you didn't want to join, you didn't have to join. And there was no real set agenda at times. Sometimes it was just like, what's going on? Or it was like, you know what? Yeah, it was a check-in. This person is driving me crazy. Like, you know what? This happened to me. How do I handle this? I need some advice. And you have varying perspectives on a call that could help you. And it was never meant to be like partners and associates. It's just, we're just Black women. And sometimes those that may have been a partner may have had some, advice. Oh, let me tell you, or let me, my experience, let me share this with you. But at the same time, it was associates that was like, well, did you consider, when you did that, did you consider this from a different perspective? Right. It was just varying Black women giving varying perspectives.
And what people don't realize too, sometimes you need that outlet, right? So you already know where I'm about to go with this, because I personally went through something at the firm. And I remember, one, I had a separate call with you. And again, just highlighting the importance of having your sister tribe, having people who will go to bat for you. As a junior associate, I didn't necessarily know how to address that. So I was racially profiled. Yes, in a law firm. And, it was crazy, because I was there on a Saturday working, and I was actually asked if I belonged there, despite the fact that I had a key card and I was where I needed to be, billing hours on a Saturday. But it's funny, because when you and I spoke about it, we were with another male senior partner, and I said it in passing, right? Because I didn't understand the significance, but I probably said it too, because I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do about it? I had to just roll my sleeves up and keep moving. And when I say that was a Sunday evening, by that Monday midday, HR was calling me. What I didn't realize, and I think a lot of us sometimes we don't, right? Just because we don't have time to stop and appreciate some of the things that are actually happening around us. That was a very traumatizing experience. And, it took someone taking me aside and saying, hey, this happened. You need to deal with it, but also I'm going to fight with you. But then we got on the call with S3, and just being able to express that, kind of release some anger that I probably didn't even know that I had. Because I'm just like, okay, this is normal. I'm a Black woman, they've been doing this, but that's the problem. It shouldn't be such a normal thing that we accept, and it's like, oh, okay, we need to start fighting back. We need to start standing up for ourselves, and we need to start coming together, to your point, not only to celebrate, but also to fight together and band together. I strongly believe, one, if nobody fights me when I say this, Black women make the world go round, and I think that we are stronger together. And when we join forces, we are a force to be reckoned with.
I completely agree with you, and there is something special about the Black woman. I don't care what anybody has to say. Just what we're able to bear, what we're able to hide at times and shield, what we're able to carry. It's a lot, and most people, and I've said this to some of my my white counterparts. I'm quick to say, I was like, you couldn't be a Black woman. You're complaining about that. You couldn't be a Black woman.
That part.
Like, that has you about to break. I'm like, you just couldn't, because right or wrong, we've grown up and been raised to actually shield and to take it and to carry that weight. And sometimes not let it out, sometimes not share it with each other for fear of, okay, this is making me look as if I'm being weak, or I don't have that luxury to let it out, and to just, but we do, and we have to. And I think that's a huge importance about your sister tribe, whether it's both professionally and personally. And then there will be times in our lives, because I think back to S3, and this conversation about it is so timely, because we don't have the associates in the firm right now would be like, what, or Black women would be, what are S3? Because and everyone's been like, I need you to start it again. I need you to start it again. And the reason why it stopped was it was doing so well. I just felt like it was being attacked. And then from that, it being attacked, then it was me being attacked, and it was draining. And then the expectations of me having to carry it and to do it all, because it was something that I started.
Right.
And while rightfully so, it was great and it was my honor to do it, it became a lot. It became a lot on me to have to continue to carry that, continue to actually uplift when I didn't have what I needed. Once you excel and not having additional women that are in leadership, there's not everything that you can share back. So my issues, I couldn't necessarily talk about it all the way down, because one, just the level of leadership, but me not having someone in the firm that I actually can talk to and I can vent to became a lot. And the one person that I did that kept it together, when she left the firm, it was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I'm taking this on. And it became a lot.
Right.
And it became something that I kind of tried to hand off, but even just handing it off was never really just handing it off, because then it always was like, okay, so what else should we do? Or what else do we need to do? So it was just another face, as opposed to, no, I need you to take this and carry it.
That was your baby.
That's how everyone looked, like it was your baby.
Right.
And it was, but it was also my baby that I'm like, you know what? I have flourished. I have grown it. I am ready for it to thrive. And it might need to thrive with someone else. And it didn't necessarily do that. And so it just became, and I hear it to this day, about, where's S3? And I listen to the women now that are new, that have no clue that we used to do this. It's like, well, what's this S3? And I honestly recognize that it is needed, and that no matter what, this is something that I have to pull back. And I say this whole, this discussion about it is so timely, because I literally was away with the sister tribe this weekend, and it was personal, my girlfriends, none of that. And I needed that, because I myself, as we all are, was at a breaking point. I was at a breaking point. The how my year was supposed to start, just the firm drama and everything that entailed was not. It was way too much, and I just was tired, because one, I always say, and people laugh at me when I say this, but people drain you. Like, you need people drain you. You give up yourself. And when you're empty, you don't have anything to give. And so sometimes you got to get away. You got to do whatever you need to do to actually replenish and refill so you can keep fighting the battle, because it was I just felt like, man, I can't do anything right. I'm being criticized when I'm not uplifting, but I don't have it in me to uplift. I'm being criticized when I stay hands off and let me just let you go. Then that's wrong.
Right.
And it was coming at all directions, and it had been that way for months. And I think I had gotten to a breaking point where I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I personally can't do this anymore. Like, I'm exhausted. And a girlfriend of mine, it was her birthday, weekend. And literally she's like, we're going to Tulum. I know you're super busy. Can you please fit it in? And I was like, yes. And so went away, and it was lots of fun.
Right. But you needed that.
No. Yeah, it was like a cat nap. That's what I was like, it needed to be longer. But just the conversation and the discussions that we have, and the giving me my flowers, and talking about my spirit and what it says about me, just listening to all of that, I came back with new energy. And not enough, but I came up back with new energy, where it was, I'm not going to let anybody dim my light. I'm not going to let anyone minimize the work and the effort that I'm doing. And literally reinstituting, however that might look like, S3 has just been on my spirit since coming back. And that's like, and it's been all week, and not even just a small, it's been like nudging at me so many times where I've sat down and was like, okay, let me send this email. This is the day, whoever can make it. And one of the things that I realized, which had not been the case before, is I couldn't tell you all of the new Black women associates that we had. Like, I was like,
wow. And I think a lot of that is because of the pandemic, right? I think what people, and that kind of ties into this conversation, but what people don't necessarily realize is the pandemic took us away from our people, because now we're more remote. Some firms haven't gone back. Some companies won't go back, and because of the nature of business now, it's being done remotely, So because of that, we have to be a little bit more intentional as far as welcoming those people back into the firm. Or welcome them to the firm. I'm not going to say back into the firm. I said back into it because I started thinking about myself. I left and came back and nobody knew because it was during the pandemic, right? But it's, I think I'm glad to hear you say that, because now I'm going to be on it, because, I felt a certain type of way. I left for a whole year. I got back into the firm. I saw my calendar. The S3 was still there. Get on the phone for 10 minutes. Like, wait a minute. What happened? So I'm happy to hear that, it's something on your spirit. Now you've said it to the people, legally unapologetic. So it's out there. So now we really gonna hold you accountable as far as trying to get it started again. But, I thank you for recognizing the importance of having something like that within a very, very stressful at times environment, especially where there's not that many of us. You talked about that. You talked about the fact that a lot of Black women, some of us, we don't stay long enough to elevate to management. We're not given the opportunities, right, that some of our counterparts are given, as far as becoming leaders or becoming name partners or equity partners or whatever it may be. And because of some of the difficulties that's associated with the practice and being Black women, some of us, we transition, sometimes it's much needed. I'm in that space, so I can't, throw shade or anything on anyone that's transitioning. Sometimes you need it. But for those that stay within the firm, let's talk briefly about what responsibilities seasoned attorneys and leaders have and owe to younger attorneys who are trying to navigate these spaces.
So I think one of the things that I truly, truly believe in is that as a Black woman, as a Black person in general, you have to be comfortable with being the only. And that's the only one in the room, the only one that's at a certain level. You have to be comfortable with being the only, because you have to navigate that space.
Mm,
But you should never ever be so comfortable that you stay the only,
mm,
because that means, like, while you're comfortable, because you have to be able to comfortable, but you should always be strategic. In me learning to navigate this space as being the only, that is because I'm thinking about ways that I can maybe this time next year not be the only person in this room. I have an obligation to reach back and pull up
mm-hmm.
and pull forward. And we find, and I've found this in sometimes in younger associates, my way of reaching back and pulling forward may not be what you're thinking. It may not be what you think automatically. I am always laying the path for you. I may not tell you, I may not even show you, but when you realize you got that small little call about something from a partner that you've never met before, there was somebody that sponsored you. There was somebody that was actually putting you in a place to actually get to my level or the next level. It may not look like the path in which you thought or you think it should be, but they're still working, and you have to trust that. I look at my path in general. I know that I am not where I'm at solely on because of, yeah, I feel like, yep, I'm great. Yeah, I'm great. But I also know that there was someone in a room that spoke my name, and many times didn't look like me, but they still spoke my name enough to make others recognize who I was and to give me the benefit of the doubt, to show how I can actually add value and be successful. So I think as senior attorneys, while we have to definitely learn how to manage being that only, because if you don't, then they're going to be like, why are we bringing anybody else that looked like her? She couldn't even figure it out herself. So you got to be comfortable. You still have to be yourself while you're the
That part.
only one in that room, but you can never get so comfortable that you stay the only. Your obligation
Mm,
is truly to reach back. It's truly to make sure that you're grooming those next to take your place, because there's enough out here for us all to shine. And so I may not, my elevation, if you push me, it's like the rising tide. You push up, I move up. Like, if I bring you up, we're all elevating. And
right.
our problem is sometimes I elevate, but I haven't been doing what I needed to do. So now there's this gap, because now there's no one here. But the whole idea is, it's like a step ladder. I move up, you move up. You move up, I
Mm-hmm.
move up. And that's the whole thing, because like I said, there is enough out here for us all to shine.
I like that. I like it. Okay. All right. Well, look, I was going to ask you, positive words for the people, but I think you just gave it to us, right?
So I'll jump in here and say, as we find ourselves closing the evening out, that the one piece of advice that I would leave to lawyers, both young and old, is truly, at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. So no matter where you're at, be your authentic self. And that being your authentic self may not always look like you think. Like, I have gotten, and it may change over years. Like, I will say, my younger self, I had to learn how to play the game. And I say that I was like, I learned how to play the game, and definitely recognize, okay, I may not win this battle, but I'm gonna win the next three. And but doing it authentically. Like, if you don't like what I say, I'm sorry, you didn't like what I say. At the end of the night, the only person that needs to like what I say is me, because I have to sleep with it. One of the things that I tell anyone is, just be your authentic self. Be who you are. Be who you are passionate about. And everyone else will have to adapt, or they don't. But at the end of the day, you don't want to make others more comfortable while making yourself uncomfortable. And I think that's been something big that I've had to, and it's not always easy. So because even me, it was progression. I had to get to the point. But it's from everything, from talking about when I wouldn't talk about my faith in God with colleagues because maybe that wasn't the right thing to say. But I am who I am because of him. I am literally, I can't tell you what I did to put me in this spot. All I know is that I prayed for it and he did it. And so not me, it was not by anything that I did. It was really, whether it was the words that I spoke, it's the actions that I took, it was always grounded in him. So he actually got me here. I am who I am because of the one above. And I'm not apologizing for that. Another thing that I can tell you that I had to be my authentic self, and this really truly hit home for me after the incident with George Floyd, and I realized that it was the big talk about the African American and people of color and all of those things. And I remember having a conversation with someone and hanging up, and they kept referring to me as an African American, and I was like, okay, but why not black? Because I'm a black woman, and there is literally so much freaking power in black. And why am I saying that? Why am I just not saying I'm a black woman? Why am I saying I'm an African American woman? I was like, I hadn't been to Africa, but maybe 6 years ago, but the first time, and I'm so it was because it made everyone, it was politically correct, and it made everyone else feel comfortable, but at my expense. So why am I making others feel comfortable at my own expense? That's not how that should work. And yeah, I'll still say, yep, I'm African American if it comes out, but I'm also saying I'm a black woman. I have no problem. Like there's strength in that. You need to understand that. And I'm a black woman. So when you ask me when I teach my niece, when I teach, my god kids, it's like, yeah, my daughter, you are a black woman. And be comfortable and be proud of that. And if you want to say you're African American, make it because you want to say it, not because somebody else, or you're trying to make other people feel comfortable. At the end of the day, you have to make yourself comfortable. Never ever dim your light, and never ever make someone else comfortable at the expense of yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm over here like, oh, I hear it, and I'm like, I cannot wait for everybody else to hear it. So, all right. So, LaKeisha, before I let you go, do you want to tell the people, anyone that wants to reach out to you, how they can find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn under LaKeisha Marsh in Chicago. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. This was great, and I greatly appreciated our discussion. And thank you for coming on to an episode of Legally Unapologetic.
No, and thank you for having me. And I am super proud of you for standing in your own. So I love this.
Thank you so much. So there you have it. First off, I have to thank LaKeisha for coming to the set and agreeing to not only discuss her experience with us, but also talk about the importance of having a sister tribe. As I mentioned during our interview, guys, this is someone that was very, very important in my professional life and space while I was practicing in the private space. And because I understood the importance of having a sister tribe, I was sure to not only surround myself with people like LaKeisha, but other black women that look like me, that could pour into me, that supported me, that pushed me. Guys, it's so important that we hold each other accountable, that we support each other. We are so strong together. And too often that is lost. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of having your sister tribe. For some of the young attorneys that's out there, I know that can be a daunting task. Some of you guys are working in private spaces where, some of the black women attorneys, especially the higher ups, they may be hard to reach and or get their attention. I encourage you to do that. We cannot walk this space alone, and it is important that we have individuals who believe in us, pour into us, support us, and uplift us on our side. I highly, highly encourage you to find you a sister tribe. And it doesn't necessarily have to be people within your firm. It can be people that's outside of your firm. I'm fortunate enough to say that I had folks not only in my firm, but folks outside of my firm at the time that I was practicing that really did support me. And I know that I would not be where I am today and in the spaces that I've been in without having a strong support system. Black women, I truly believe that we make the world go round. And the scary part about it is we are so strong together. We need to embrace each other and continue to uplift each other and pour into each other. Of course, before I let you guys go, I have to leave you with an inspirational quote. Today, I'm going to leave you with a quote by Serena Williams on the power of sisterhood. Now, Serena once said that the success of every woman should be the inspiration of another. We should raise each other up. Make sure you're very courageous, be strong, be extremely kind, but above all, remain humble. I want to hear from you. Please make sure that if you are not following us on our social media handles, that you go ahead and do so. We can be reached at Legally Unapologetic. That's all one word. And guys, this video is available on YouTube, so please make sure that you subscribe to that channel. I have to thank our guest, LaKeisha Marsh, for coming on and being such an inspiration for all of us. LaKeisha has pushed bounds and reached points in her professional career that a lot of us are striving to ultimately reach, and she serves as a great example of what Black Girl Magic looks like. And I greatly appreciate her not only being a pillar of her community within her firm, but also serving as an example for everyone that's within the legal profession. LaKeisha, you are awesome, you are amazing. I tell you that all the time. Greatly appreciated the opportunity to have worked with you, and I'm definitely glad that we can remain sisters in the law. Remember, guys, what LaKeisha said. I think it was a very important point, and before we sign off, I want to go ahead and remind you of that. Never ever dim your light and make yourself uncomfortable for the comfort of others. This has been another episode of Legally Unapologetic. Thank you guys so much for continuing to tune in, and we'll be back soon.